Self-Publishing Podcast, episode number 124.
This episode of the Self-Publishing Podcast is brought to you by 99 Designs, the online marketplace that helps you get outstanding book cover design at an affordable price. Start your custom design today at 99designs.com/SPP. Enjoy a free Power Pack upgrade valued at $99.
Welcome to the Self-Publishing Podcast, where if you want something done right, you gotta do it yourself. And now, here are your hosts, the three whitest guys at podcasting, Johnny, Sean, and Dave.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Self-Publishing Podcast, the podcast that's all about how to get your words out into the world without contending with agents, publishers, or the other gatekeepers in traditional publishing. I'm Johnny B. Truant, and my co-hosts are Sean Platt and David Wright. Sean, have you noticed how Dave has really gotten into his role as the pre-roll?
You know what, I was going to say, it's amazing how good he is at it, considering I know he's been awake for like 9 minutes, right? And he just he sounds so spry, he's ready to go.
Minutes,
11 minutes.
And I'm sick as a dog.
Wow, early riser today.
No, you know what? You know why he's half dead right now? Because he just murdered the end of Yesterday's Gone season 5. Oh my God!
Did it in a good way?
In the best way, yeah. No, I love this ending. I'm trying to decide right now if I like it more.
Let's discuss it in detail.
Let's give away the ending. I'm sure nobody listening reads the series.
Just in very general terms, I think I like it as much, if not more, than the season 2 Yesterday's Gone ending, which was my previous favorite. But it's just
like it more than the Dexter season finale.
Which season?
The last one, the series finale.
No, I yes, absolutely. I probably don't like it as much as the season 4 finale, which is just so delicious. Of Dexter.
Desmond.
Yeah.
Desmond.
Freudian slip.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just finished that. Going over what he did this morning, and I think he's had like 2 27-hour days. So, and he's sick, but it's just so good. It's just so good. He killed it.
What's the release date?
October 15th.
All right, and the Sterling and Stoners will get it a little bit early, right?
Like an hour and a half.
An hour.
Like an hour early.
They're gonna get it about.
We'll get better at
still
that.
be drying.
We're just up against the wall a little bit.
We'll get way better at that. But yeah, they'll be lucky to get it in like 90 minutes.
I emailed Sean. Yeah, I had a 16-hour day the day before, and I emailed Sean at the end of it, and I was just almost done with the whole season. I still had like the last part to write, so I emailed him. I said, "We're never doing another fucking deadline again."
I think it's all deadlines, dude. I think that's the standard.
No.
You just need to do that setting the clocks ahead thing. Hey, Dave, I need this by January 1st of 2013.
Yeah. But it was really a pleasure to read. I'm really excited. I have 2 projects that I'm really excited to read in their finished form. Axis and Yesterday's Gone season 5, which are both coming up for polish and just really exciting.
I think that Axis maybe the writing of it was a lot harder than the Dream Engine and a lot less infused with enthusiasm, but I think that this is now my favorite. Like Dream Engine had it had a few months to be my favorite, but it's just so layered and convoluted and plus I found myself thinking about Dave while doing it because that's what happens when you do certain things. But Dave said last week that I kind of liked the idea of reading that, and so I find myself thinking of Dave and what Dave would think of this turn of events. And I think of Dave most of the time, though.
We got a slight programming issue here. This is on the Self-Publishing Podcast YouTube, not the Sterling and Stone.
Oh, that's balls.
So now people looking for it are like, what the hell?
No, that doesn't make any sense because I went to the Google Plus page. I hate that I set this up in a rush. I went to the Sterling and Stone page. I don't understand the problem. So I guess we'll need to make sure this is downloaded and re-uploaded because we can't have that. Well, that's really annoying. That's one more damn thing to do.
We're sorry for sucking, everybody. Yeah. But are we going to talk more about our tech issues?
Well, no, well, first of all, let me say that our guest today is going to be Risa Walker, who actually won the 2013 Amazon Breakthrough Novel Award. Now, I actually didn't know that when I talked to her on Twitter, because she just mentioned me because I had mentioned her book Timebound a couple of times just because I'd read it and liked it. And so she was on Twitter and she said, oh, Timebound mention on Self-Publishing Podcast. And so I had the idea of having her on the show and found out about it's actually a great story because she self-published that book.
Wasn't the history of this that you were talking about her on the show because you got to the end, you really dug the story, and she didn't have like an easy opt-in or a way to, like, you wanted to know when you could get the next story because you were really like, it was a good example of an author kind of needing that's what a list is for, and it was a good example because you as a reader, not as a fellow author, but as a reader, wanted to know when her next book was coming out.
It looks like October 21st from her website.
Yeah, I've actually pre-ordered it already, so.
Cool.
But yeah, so she'll be on. But one thing, I know that this is something Dave has been wanting to talk about because he wanted to talk about Yesterday's Gone a lot, but even more, the one thing that he's willing to step aside from talking about Yesterday's Gone season 5 for is the space shuttle rewrite, which Sean had said he wanted to talk about. Sean's like, we should talk about the space shuttle rewrite, giving me a great transition.
Wait, no, rewrite.
Yeah, no, I'm so excited about this. This is funny. There's been a couple of themes that have just kept repeating themselves over the last couple of days, and this is funny. So, space shuttle. If we line up everything that Johnny and I have done together, not space shuttle as a whole. The Space Shuttle season 1, I think, is really funny. I like it a lot. But the first episode has always been weak. And Johnny wrote a really good post. I think that's going out on Saturday, on tomorrow at this time, and about that and about why it wasn't as good. And the post is called "How to Be Awesome," and it's basically about acknowledging when something isn't as good as it needs to be and revisiting it. For on the Collective Inkwell side, that title is Z2134 for me and Dave. There are things that we wish we could change in that book, and we can't. And that's one of the joys of being an indie publisher, is that you can change things when they need to be changed. And we've never felt like Space Shuttle, episode 1 specifically, as a whole, we love it. Episodes 2 and 6 through 6 will remain unchanged. But episode 1, we wanted to do better, so we just rewrote it. We kept the same structure, the same beats, but Johnny just rewrote it, and it was funny. I actually edited that, and I laughed a lot. It was really, really funny. And yesterday, this is funny. We were talking about this with David Gogren and Joanna Penn yesterday, because I looked at the redacted beats, which I totally forgot about. I don't remember them at all. And I was in the Space Shuttle file, which also has redacted, and I read them, and I laughed so hard I cried. And they were just beats, and I can't wait for Johnny to write that.
Dave isn't going to make the obvious joke of, you're sure you weren't crying for other reasons?
Actually, I was waiting to make the other joke. Are you going to put like new and slightly improved on the front cover?
Yes, no. I think we should.
And you are sick though to miss the crying of pain joke.
No, it was
just to correct Sean a little bit on sterlingandstone.net, which, holy shit, it's like 3 posts a day on that site. Oh my god. It's today, as we record this, September 5th, that the How to Be Awesome post is up. But the one he's talking about, I think, no. What he would describe as the How to Be Awesome, but the one that I wrote that will appear tomorrow is actually just a description of like the rewrite process and like what went into it, and the parallel that Sean was talking about drawing between Z and Space Shuttle is that we can rewrite this and we can kind of go back and erase things. But I realized some of the things that had tripped me up with this were, and it was primarily my fault. Sean gave me the beats, and I was hesitant because it was a brand new genre for us. Like, I've done humor but not comedy. Comedy is just very pointed. It's like, this is specifically to make you laugh, which is different from just having funny situations. And so it was a new genre. it was the first of the sitcoms. It was a new format. Like the sitcom format was a little odd, and I didn't know the characters, which is true in any pilot, but was true in this on top of everything else.
Well,
And
real quick, something that Johnny added to my beats that didn't exist, that actually I think totally made the series so much better than it would have been otherwise, but I think probably tripped up the pilot because it had this whole like prologue that had to happen, was Johnny said, wait a minute, we've got all these alien characters, but we don't have a human. We don't have anyone to relate to. So he added a prologue where, you know, the human is drawn into Space Shuttle. And that, I think, was so necessary to the story, and it made it a lot better because of it, but it didn't exist in the beats and was, you know, a diversion.
Yeah, you'll
needed,
notice
Go ahead,
you'll
Dave.
notice that in any movie, like they do use so many relatable, like especially when it's like a completely foreign concept. You have the fish out of water that you're, as a moviegoer, seeing the world through. And to your point about not knowing the characters, I was reading something Ricky Gervais had written about how second seasons are always his favorite of any show that he writes, because the first season he doesn't really know the actors involved, their strengths and weaknesses. He's really just writing these things in his head. But then the second season he really knows both the actors and the characters and what the actors bring to the characters, and it's always stronger.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And reading Johnny's rewrite, it's very funny because, you know, we have another 5 episodes and we know
We
where
knew the characters.
we knew the characters, yeah, and so it was very funny.
But the other thing, too, that I think will be instructive to anybody listening to this, no matter what you write, is that what I said in the post that'll run tomorrow, and again, if you're listening on the audio feed, it's already up. It was on September 6th, is that it was, I think what really tripped me up was a lack of confidence. So I said it was a new genre, we didn't know the characters, blah, 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 but those are just the symptoms, and the underlying thing, what those caused, actually, was that a lack of confidence. And I think that Stephen King says this in On Writing, and I think it's absolutely true, is that usually when somebody is overly explanatory, when a writer just goes on and explains every little thing, it's because they feel that the reader won't get it unless they fully explain everything. And that's the Hugh Howey thing. When he was on our show, he said somebody in sci-fi doesn't look at a sliding door that's, you know, like on the Enterprise or whatever, and think about the pneumatics involved and what, like, the door opens, right? But I felt the need to explain, like, how Sloane, our character, had gotten there, the mechanics of the wormhole and why he couldn't go back, and all of this stuff. But when really all the reader needed to know is he's stranded in space. He's a human stranded in space. That's all you needed to know. And so I cut out all of that and just focused on trying to tell the story. So, and the other thing, just from a process standpoint, if anybody cares about this, is I originally tried to go through and punch it up. So if anybody knows that from the film world, the idea is you take an existing script and you just kind of make it better. You know, you just you add a joke here or there, or you do whatever, and that's what I thought I was going to do. So I went through the manuscript and I just said, okay, well, this first paragraph, let me rework it this way, and the second paragraph, and I spun my wheels. These normally take me a day to write, if that. And I worked on it for 2 days before deciding, okay, fuck it. Like, I'm gonna write myself new beats. You know, this needs to happen, this needs to happen. I'll throw out the old episode one and then just rewrite it, like, from the beats.
Needs more
It works
fisting
way
mittens.
And
Not in this series.
I don't remember, like, I remember the basics of the original, but I had no idea what was new and what was old in this, because it felt like familiar territory, but it felt really fresh. I love the stuff between Oni and Winston where he's talking about his wife. It's just so funny, and the Predator stuff is funny. It was really cool that we could, you know, just kind of wipe the slate clean and do a better job. And I think that there's a lot to learn from that, because I think that you really grow when you make mistakes, but not if you just keep making them. It's about making a mistake, seeing what you could have done better, and then doing it better. And I really love that as indies we have that ability. You know, we have that power to constantly improve our work, and we just get a lot of the tools and a lot of the toys and a lot of the rules, and it's our job to make the best of them.
So I have a question for the Yesterday's Gone is season 5, and season 6 is the last season.
Yeah.
So how hard was that to get all the ducks in a row and sort of set the chessboard up the way it had to be going to the next season? Was it like arduously difficult?
I think it's always difficult when I make it difficult.
When you're involved?
Yeah, you know what? No, but to Dave's credit, I don't think he made it difficult this time. I think it legitimately was difficult. I think this was the hardest thing we've written, and Dave did all the heavy lifting. And it was the hardest thing we'd ever written, just because it's the 5th season now. Like, there's a lot to keep track of. There's a lot that we can't contradict ourselves. And so you have all of that, where all of a sudden you have this world that's now gone on for, what is it, probably 600,000 words. So that's a lot of prehistory. But not only that, but we're setting it up for the final season. Next season is everything. Like, it's done. And so there's just a lot of craftsmanship that has to happen to both set up the 6th one, but also fully deliver an experience for the reader in the 5th. And, like, honestly, I'm still not 100% that we're there, but I think we did a really good job. It's hard because, like, I've lost line of sight a little bit. We just finished it this morning, and now we both have to go through it one more time. And a little bit will be added and tweaked.
Yeah, it could be insane. Every time we approach a new season, I feel like the guy from Memento that I need to remind myself of everything that happened. Because I've forgotten.
If Dave took his shirt off right now, you would see he'd have tattoos everywhere. Remember
a lot of
Mauricio?
space, a lot of space for a lot of story beat notes.
But I think
Sean's outlining short stories, and David's got the Bud Vegeta.
But yeah.
But do you think season 6 will be easier?
I think it will.
No.
I don't think Dave would think
No.
so, but I do. I think it'll be a lot easier. I think
No, it won't.
Why?
Because it's the end. It's okay. Not to compare it to Breaking Bad, but it is our most successful thing. It is our big ending. It's the thing that people will judge the entire work on. So that's
okay. All right. I'm not saying that it's not hard, but comparing it to 5, do you think it will be harder, the same, or easier than 5?
I don't know. We'll cross that bridge and burn it when we get there.
See, I think it'll be easier than 5, especially because, like, we built that scaffolding. If we did the job that we were supposed to do in 5, then 6 should be.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to talk too deeply about this without ruining things. But we did a couple of things that give us a playground that it should be a little bit easier to just deliver a lot more fun and action and excitement. This was a little more. We had to set a stage, and this was a little more like season 3. In a way, season 3, I think, had some of the difficulties that Dave would typically worry about as far as sewing everything up. But for 6,
I think 3 was the hardest, actually.
Yeah. You thought 3 was harder than 5?
Maybe. Yeah. And then again, I haven't gone through 5 yet, so I could completely change my mind. This was our Empire Strikes Back, though. So.
Yeah. This had a lot of elements to it that were difficult, and it was one of those things too. And 3 definitely had this, where we had to get all the characters were kind of spread out all over the place narratively, and we had to get them all to a certain location, and it wasn't like.
Them.
Yeah, we had to funnel them, right? And we couldn't just say, "Oh, they got in Penn and Teller's bus to Vegas." Like, we had to.
That's what you would have done if you were working with me.
Yes, totally. But we had to very logically move all the pieces, and that's not easy to do without, like, bullshitting the reader. It takes deft. There were a lot more in our story meetings. There were a lot more quiet spaces between us. A lot less because it was a little more like an actual workout. Where you're lifting heavy things because it's hard and you're tearing a muscle so that it can grow. And I think it was a really rewarding experience. And again, Dave delivered words every single week. He didn't miss one deadline. He totally just owned this project. And I think we did really good work.
I am interested to know if there will be any truly horrifying scene, like the scene with Charlie in the back of the truck. I'm wondering if there's anything like that in this season. If not, then I'll need to create that.
Honestly, I feel like it is. Well, no, I'll take that back. It is missing that scene like that. But I didn't feel like anything was truly, truly explosive until like all the stuff in the last episode is just so good. And Dave, the 16-hour day that Dave was talking about, where he wrote the ending, that was fantastic. But then the epilogue, I liked even more. I was just so happy this morning, and it's just really, really, really good stuff. And I think that readers are going to be really. I mean, I think that this book will do two things. It will make the readers who read it very, very happy, but it also make them really excited for season 6. Like, they want it now. And I think that that's what season 2 did. Season 2 was like, oh, I got to read season 3 right now. And season 3 ended with a little bit like, well, okay, if I stop now, I'm okay with that. Like, I have a lot of closure. It'd be cool to keep going, and it was definitely, season 4 was more for true fans of the series would go on, but you could have closure at 3. And 4 was like, all right, guys, are you dragging it out or what? Where's this going? And season 5, I think, delivers, and then it's like, all right. And there was just one little change I made on Dave's final words that said to be continued in season 6. I'm like, nah, to be concluded in season 6, which I think is very powerful.
Don't you dare put a date, though.
I'd love to see 4th of July for that.
To be concluded when Dave gets to it.
Whenever Dave gets around to it.
George R.R. Martin.
The way that I handled that for Fat Vampire, which is also a 6-book series, is I wrote 5 and 6 together for exactly, like, that allowed me to think of it as one project. If I wrote 5 and 6 together, it was like one book in 2 acts, and I think that made it way, way easier. So why don't you just do that? No, just kidding. But you know what I mean? It allowed me to say, like, I know that I'm going to need something tied up at the end of book 6, but because I'm working on them together, like, I finished 6 before I went back and polished 5. And I think that really, really helped because I was able to see what needed nudging in which directions. And I would advocate that for a season.
I totally agree. I totally agree. I think that ideally would have been best. But there's 2 things here. First, we really did want to hit our October 15th release date, and we would have really, really, really had to rush. And second,
15th.
And what did I say?
I think you said 13th. I don't know.
Oh, October 15th. But also, Dave's process is a little bit different, and he wants to marinate in between seasons. And there's nothing wrong with that.
I can't even imagine going to 6 right now.
Yeah,
I'm like empty.
So, but having said that, Johnny, the thing that we did, if I don't want to ruin anything, but I think that the breadth between these 2 seasons is perfectly fine considering the way 5 ended, and it actually makes sense, and it doesn't need to be done back to back the way I would have preferred before we started. I actually think it's totally fine now.
I was actually, this worked out really well because I was Dave sends this email like, he usually writes the ad reads and then we pretend that it's impromptu. And Dave wrote this email like, "Oh, I'm just wiped from doing season." And I said, "You know what? I actually just had an idea. I just had this idea."
Oh no.
And so, well, no, it's because it's not going to be. I'm just going to discuss stuff. Okay, so like our sponsor is 99 Designs. Obviously, they did a great job on the logo for Sterling and Stone.
Yes.
We're going to need logos for everything else. We've done a few book covers. And for some reason, I was thinking about this. I wrote a post on my old blog on johnnybtruant.com, like, I don't know, 2 years ago or something, where I was saying that I wanted to get a tattoo. And I do. I want to get a tattoo. And I have in mind what I want. But I don't know. And I'm not, this isn't, but like you guys are waiting for the punchline. There's no punchline.
No. I'm just picturing us all in Texas getting Sterling and Stone logo tattooed on our asses.
Oh, no, I'm not going to get the Sterling and Stone logo. But the idea is I know what I want, and I've decided I'm going to wait until I move to Austin to get it, just for symbolic reasons, which I know Sean will appreciate. And so I was thinking, I wonder if I should like do a 99 Designs thing to have him design my tattoo. I mean, I could give you the parameters. I could describe sort of what I have going on.
I'm totally
here.
lost if this is legit or an ad read right now.
It's both.
It's an ad read. It's not an ad read. It's an ad impromptu thing because I'm wondering if I could go to 99designs.com/SPP. And seriously, because they did so good in the logo, like wouldn't that be cool if I described the parameters that I have in mind for a tattoo? In all seriousness, do you think that would work?
In all seriousness, yes, I think that would work, and yes, I think that's actually kind of awesome.
Like, how cool would that be? Because I think people would be interested. I mean, here's the concept. Okay, do you want to hear the concept that I have in mind?
Of course.
Yes, I do,
Okay.
but real quick, just before we
Oh, he's
move.
going to interrupt.
No, I just want to know if Dave still has his love butt tattoo. Does it still say the love butt? Or
The love butt.
or did you get that sanded off?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's so first of all, for anybody who hasn't figured this out yet, and if you haven't figured this out yet, then come on. Johnny B. Truant is not my real name. So the story behind that is I'm not good at coming up with names, so I have to steal stuff, right? Like I just say, well, what's something that's interesting to me? And so like unicorns, from Dave. And so I've read House of Leaves a few times, and I really like it, and it's just really trippy. And so I just pulled Johnny Truant. And I added the B for reasons too dumb to explain. But there's this section in that book, which is like a puzzle book. I mean, it's like crazy, where Johnny Truant, who's sort of the narrator of the book, and it's a whole nested thing, says a Latin phrase, which I'm probably going to fuck up, and it's non sum qualis eram. So I may have mispronounced that for you Latin people, but what it means is I am not what I used to be. And I'm like, how perfect is that? Like I've written posts about how who I am day to day is different from Johnny. Like I consider that a schism.
You're the real Slim Shady.
I'm the real Slim Shady. And so I thought that having that on a tattoo, maybe having something to do with like a maze, because it's about mazes in House of Leaves. Like there's a lot of parallels between House of Leaves and what happens there and sort of my development into this, having this other side, like becoming who I want to be. I'm not what I used to be. And so I thought that a tattoo incorporating that, something small maybe for my forearm, would be awesome.
Well, I think the folks at 99 Designs could do a good job.
How would that process work if they were going to do that, though, Dave?
Well, whether you want a book cover, a T-shirt, or I'm guessing a tattoo, you go, you present your idea, and then lots of designers will compete to come up with the best design for you. And you could even get other people involved. You could have people voting on what will be on your body forever.
Wouldn't it be cool if people would get behind it? So probably
knowing our fans are gonna like get some sort of symbol that says something completely the opposite.
Well, I don't have to take what they say, but the only thing I'm a little concerned about if I do this is I don't want to have something to lose. I don't want to, spend my money and then end up with nothing.
Well, we've used 99 Designs for our books and for our logo for the Sterling.
No, I didn't know that. Say more.
Yes, and we've always been happy. And the best part with 99 Designs is they have a 100% money back guarantee, and you have nothing to lose except for perhaps a tattoo that'll be on your body forever and ever.
Wow, well, holy crap.
But that's not their fault.
Right, that's not them losing. That's me. Well, that's what I said. See, now I'm worried. Now I feel like I got something to lose, but not for those reasons. So just start your custom design today at 99designs.com/SPP and enjoy a free power pack upgrade valued at $99, which will make your design contest stand out from the crowd. 99 Designs will bold your listing, highlight it with a prominent background, and feature it before the regular listings, and this on average results in 185% more designs. So visit 99designs.com/SPP to get started.
I'm not even kidding. When I'm rich, I'm gonna have 99 Designs contest for like crazy shit just to amuse me. Like not stuff I need.
You can be like a king. Amuse me, 99 Designs.
Can you design my basement? The prisoners down there are getting very.
You know what? We've had a couple of people ask about, and I think we actually maybe should do this following the summit. People have asked about Altera maps. It would be really cool to do like a Alteran map from 99 Designs. I think that would be awesome.
That is a perfect use, and people have used it for their World Docs. People have actually emailed us to say that they've used it for that, or commented on the show. I don't remember. But
I mean, how cool
good.
would that be, right? I mean, we've done covers and we've done logos, but Like that's just such a novel, different thing, and it'd be really cool. And we could add those to the World Docs, which would be neat.
I wonder if we all went to a tattoo artist, if they would see, if a tattoo artist would see me and think, now there is a canvas I can work wonders with. It's so immense.
You really sound like the average tattoo artist in that
Yes.
voice.
Hey, they're artists, man.
But I think that I need to wait until Austin, because Austin is a weird, tattoo sort of city, and
There's a tattoo parlor, like it's down by the Mueller, and there, like every time we drive by, I'm not kidding you, a line around the corner. Like people wait all day to get their tattoos done there. It's crazy.
I want a place where I can make an appointment and not stand in line like at a KFC. Thanks.
I considered getting a tattoo once, and I walked in this shop in South Florida, and there's like a baby smoking in the corner, and I was like, I don't think I want my tattoo here.
But I feel like I need to move before before I'm allowed to get that tattoo, because at the time I came up with the idea, I thought, well, yeah, I have transformed, I have become something else, but it's not complete until I move. So I feel like I need to actually move, and then I'm where I want to be, and we kind of have a story studio, even though it won't be literal, and I'll, I'm already a full-time storyteller, but then we'll be loaded and having 99 designs do campaigns to amuse us. So that'll be cool. So I have invited Rysa, just sort of waiting a second. The Google invite thing is kind of stupid. Yeah, hey, how's it going, Google? But it won't notify people anymore for some dumb
I
reason.
hate that. I think it's so terrible.
So I have to email links, which is stupid. So, but I did let her know, and we'll see. I do feel bad that a bunch of people are probably at the Sterling and Stone. By the way, there's not going to be one next month either.
Yeah,
next week either.
I did post a comment on Twitter, so we got a couple people over. MG on Bill Dallas and David Anson are here right now, and Garrett, of course.
Well, MGon wasn't probably following the tweet. He was probably following the tracking implant that he gotten on all of us somehow.
Hey guys.
Hamster Wheel had a question on YouTube. If you use 99 Designs for the first book in a series, can you then hire the winning artist privately to do subsequent books? I don't know how that would work.
I do not
it
know.
might be against terms. I don't know.
That's a good question, though.
That's a really good question. I don't know the answer.
Does anybody
We're
want to
just shills. We don't know these things.
Does anybody want to hear the tweet my friend Lori sent? It's a picture. It's a picture of Einstein pointing at his brain, and it says, "The thing about smart motherfuckers is they sound like crazy motherfuckers to dumb motherfuckers."
Wow, that's pretty great.
And then they steal your wallet in New Orleans.
Decoy
Missy
wallet.
Morgan said, "Love your tattoo idea, Johnny. Go for it."
Yeah, I'm definitely going to do it. I just have to. Well, okay. So I don't live. I say I live in Cleveland, but I don't live in Cleveland. I live outside of Cleveland.
Redacted.
Yeah, redacted near Cleveland. And so the idea of it just doesn't seem like the kind of place where I would feel confident hiring a tattoo artist. You know what I mean? Like it's not an arts sort of area. Like
You just pissed off like a bunch of Cleveland tattoo artists.
No, I said I'm outside of Cleveland. Like Cleveland itself, okay, fine, but I don't live in Cleveland. I'd have to do reconnaissance from afar, and then I'd have to, head up there.
Speaking of Sterling and Stone website, today we have an interview, 8 questions interview with Jay Thorne. It's up there. So that's
I liked his
a very good
interview.
Yeah.
Yeah, great job, Jay.
I like Jay.
We will be seeing Jay, Sean and I will, in Cleveland on Monday. Actually, we'll probably see him Sunday.
I think we have Jason Gurley coming up. I think it's next week, or if you're listening to this tomorrow, I don't know. At some point.
That's awesome.
Coming up, with
on 8 questions.
The 8 questions.
Jason Gurley did the Axis of Aaron cover.
Yes, which oh my God, I posted an excerpt from Axis of Aaron on Facebook, Google Plus, and then linked to it on Twitter, and I posted the cover for Eye Candy, and nobody said anything at all about the words. But everybody said everything about the cover. Like that was immediate, and I was just posting the covers. By the way, like I think the cover is great, but that wasn't the main thing. Like the main thing was here's the excerpt, and by the way, the cover just to grab your attention. But everybody's like, oh, great cover, amazing cover. Have we told the story of that cover, by the way? I don't know if we want to tell it now because
No, it's a big story. I think I do want to tell it. I think it's a really good story. I think it makes a great blog post too when we get to that point in Access promotion. But I don't want to start it and then have to stop. And I feel like we would right now. But it's a good story, and it does. It's too, a quality cover really is just so important. I know we talk about that, every week when we do our little terrible ad read. But legitimately, like your cover does so much to sell the idea, and we talk about this all the time. Just the idea of, there are some of our titles right now. We're going through kind of an identity crisis with our LOL titles, and we want to go out and kind of rebrand those because Dave did a really excellent job on Greens and Everybody Gets Divorced both have attractive looking covers, but they don't do their job of communicating to a potential reader, hey, this is a really funny story, you're going to laugh. And your cover has that job to do. It has that job to, along with your product description, really communicate to your reader what sort of experience they're going to expect. And I think that the Access cover really does that well because it's kind of a mind-bendy cover and it's a mind-bendy story. Hi, Rysa.
Hi, how are you?
Fantastic. How are you?
Hello.
Good to talk to you.
Sorry, I didn't get the link until just now, so.
That's because Google hates us all.
Yeah, Google does hate us all. So this is fun.
Okay?
Yeah,
Yes.
totally. You sound great. This is kind of a fun story actually because what happened, and I mentioned this a second ago, but just again, is that I had mentioned Rice's book Timebound just because I had read it and I liked it. Like Amazon recommended it to me, and I really dug it. Like I had read. I like to read young adult, but I had read that amongst a few other better known, more high profile, like the big name books, and I liked it so much better. And
wow, thank you.
well, you're welcome, but it's because you treated the characters like people weren't cliches. They were believable, real people. The lead girl isn't like overly fawning over the guy in a ridiculous way, and I just really believed it. It had a lot of heart. And so the context that I mentioned it was I got to the end of that book, and I was like, I want to know where this goes, but there wasn't an email sign up because it's through Amazon. But then what was fun was Rysa contacted me on Twitter. Well, you just mentioned me. You said, SPP mentioned Timebound. And so I just said, well, can you come on the show? And what's really, really cool that I hadn't realized when I read the book, and I'll ask you for more on this, is that it was, unless I'm mistaken here, like tell me if I'm getting your story wrong, originally a self-published book.
Yes.
And then won the Amazon Breakthrough Novel Award, which is like, psh. So can you tell that story briefly?
Okay. I originally self-published back in October of 2012 after trying for about 6 months to land an agent and deciding that I'd had enough of it. And a friend suggested that self-publishing might be a good way to go, and she liked the book enough that she said that if I wasn't willing to cough up the cash, she'd do it for me. And I didn't take the money because you don't do that with friends or you lose friends really fast. But I did take her advice, and so I went ahead and self-published. And it was doing okay. I guess I had about 60 reviews by the time I ended up pulling it down after winning the ABNA. I had entered that contest actually in 2012, and there's about a 50% chance that I posted something that had my name on it because I saved the file accidentally under the same name twice, and I realized later on that I had uploaded one of them and I don't know which one. I was doing it very last minute, and at any rate it didn't go anywhere the first time around. It didn't even make it past the pitch round, so I don't know if it's because I left my name on it or because a couple of judges got it and just thought the pitch sucked, and that's quite possible.
Are you not allowed to put your name on it?
No. You can't have your name or any identifying information other than the title anywhere. But that, I don't know, that's kind of odd because for the self-published books, and you can enter if your book is self-published or if it's unpublished, And for the self-published books, if somebody wants to find out, they can find out. It's up there. It's out there. So at any rate, that first year, it went nowhere. The next year, I already had some self-publishing experience by that point. I'd been, publicizing myself on Twitter and Facebook and begging friends to buy the book, begging bloggers to read it and review it. And I thought, okay, I'll give it one more shot. And that time I was very, very careful not to put my name on anything just in case that had been the problem. But my goal really was to get to the quarterfinal rounds, because if you make it that far, you get the free Publishers Weekly review. And I'd already coughed up like $375 to get a Kirkus indie review. That I was willing to do because I knew I could see the review, and if I liked it, I could use it. If there was something tweetable, that would be super. And if I didn't like it, I could kill it, and that would be the end of it. But I would get something out of it, at least something potentially. Publishers Weekly only said that, they'd think about reviewing it if I paid them, and I said, no, not doing that. So this was my way of getting
That's a terrible deal.
Publishers Weekly review. And so I was tickled pink when I made it to the quarterfinals round. And then it kept going. And so it took the young adult prize. And then they didn't do that this year, but last year when I won, they had all of the finalists, the 5 finalists, go to Seattle for the award ceremony. And I don't know if you guys know how that works,
cool.
But it's, if you're a finalist, you get a $15,000 advance on royalties contract. If you're the grand prize winner, it's $50,000, and I won the grand prize, so that meant I could quit the day job, which was really incredible, because otherwise I wouldn't be working on book 3 right now. I'd still be working on book 2.
Oh, that's awesome.
What I think is really kind of interesting about this, and that we haven't seen yet, is you started with the traditional route, the idea of pitching agents, and boy, is that fun! Like, I've done that.
They were rude.
Awesome.
I mean, I didn't get that much feedback from them, but I did get a couple who asked for the full manuscript, and then it's just crickets. I mean, nobody gets back to you. And my view is, I mean, I taught online. That was my day job before I quit. I taught college online, and I had emails coming in all the time. I read stacks and stacks of papers, but if somebody sent me an email, I answered the damn thing. I mean, it's just common courtesy. It takes 15 seconds to send back, yes, I got your paper. It wouldn't take any longer than that for them to send something back and say, I got your book. And I never even got that degree of courtesy, and that just rubbed me the wrong way. So I still don't have an agent, and I don't think I want one. So.
Well, I don't think you need one. So
at this point, I don't think I do.
I
No.
describe the process of trying to get a publisher to buy your book, kind of like that scene in Full Metal Jacket where they beat that guy with the pillowcases with soap bars.
Yes.
I thought you were going to compare it to
They have
dating.
to haze you. Like, they have to get you to the point where you're ready to join their little group.
Submit.
And, I mean, to use another line from movies, I'm too old for this shit. I mean, I really just didn't want to do it.
Amen.
And I had been in academia long enough that I'd done the whole publish and perish thing. I publish and perish, excuse me. That was a Freudian slip. Publish or perish is what it's supposed to be. But I had published, and had written a number of academic articles, a dissertation, all that kind of stuff. And at least there I got feedback from editors, and I got some response when I sent stuff. So I wasn't used to being treated like
Being ignored is just
16
the
and-
worst. Like, we have a
Yes.
need as humans to be responded to and acknowledged, and
even if it's just an email. I mean, even if it's
Right.
just, it doesn't have to address what I sent you. It just says, I got it, I'll take a look at it. And I did have a couple of agents that none of them that read the full manuscript that did this, but a few that said, okay, I've gotten it, and usually that was followed by, but I don't think it's for me. And I think part of that was because I was still putting in my pitch letter the fact that I had a PhD. And I think some of them probably thought that I was only going to use words that were, 27 syllables, and that I wouldn't be able to talk to a young adult.
People are
audience.
dumb. You can't
Yes.
write for them.
Okay,
No,
that's
pretty
really,
much.
really interesting
But-
right there. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And I mean, it's true that there is you don't want to write down to your audience. But there are ways to avoid that. I mean, I have kids, and they don't know words that are 27 syllables long, but I do manage to communicate with them. So I don't see why they think that's impossible.
So what happened after you won the award and your book was then published by which imprint in Amazon?
It's Skyscape.
Oh.
It To begin with, we had it was supposed to come out in October after winning the award in June, and my editor Courtney Miller contacted me and said, we have this really great new opportunity that's coming up, and it's going to mean that you would come out on ebook a month early, but you would just get a flat fee for that month. And so I'm a little nervous about this, and I'm thinking, okay, well, and she's telling me it's a great opportunity. I need to try it. It's Kindle first, if you guys, I'm sure you're familiar with it now. But this was before it had ever started. I was supposed to be in the first months, and then they said that they didn't really like the balance that they had, I think, between sci-fi and mystery and that kind of stuff, so they wanted me to wait to be in the next month. So I agreed to wait yet another month, and so on December 1st, instead of the end of October, Timebound finally came out with a title change. It used to be called Time's Twisted Arrow, brand new cover, all that fun stuff, and professional editing. And I was nervous because halfway into that month, even though it went up to the highest it peaked at was #2 on the Kindle charts, and I was tickled pink about that. But I was a little nervous because I'm talking to my agent, and she told me that 50,000 people or thereabouts had downloaded the book, and this wasn't even the end of the month. And as my mother said, no one else is going to be left to buy your book. And that was kind of my fear at that point, was that, it peaked and now it's going to tank. But as you may have seen with the Kindle First books, that generally doesn't happen. Once you're out there and you get a little bit of traction, it's a little easier to stay afloat. And I got crossover traffic, and that made all the difference in the world. There have been other YA titles that have been pitched a little younger. Gilded is a good example, which has done well, but it had a harder time reaching the adult market. And I was actually surprised to discover, at least from what I can tell, most of my readers are female. So not female, but adults. And that didn't surprise me, the female. But male, the fact that I got so many male readers actually surprised me too, because I really didn't think it would have as much crossover appeal as it has.
What's interesting to me about that, I mean, just to bring you back to modern day, is as I look right now, Timebound is at 303 in the Kindle store, so it's not like it slipped a lot. And your novella, the Times Echo, which is self-published,
yes, it is
at 928. So you're getting some crossover. So the question is this: you were saying you were skewed older than some other titles, and I've heard, I don't know if this is at all your experience or accurate or whatever, that it's a little trickier maybe to hit that young adult audience through self-publishing, just because you don't get the reach of traditional.
I think it may be, and truthfully, it kind of mystifies me because, like I said, I've got kids in that age range. One of them is a rabid YA reader. He will not read on anything other than his iPad, and he's been that way for a couple of years. The older kid will read a print book, but he really prefers ebooks too. And that's true of a lot of my nieces and nephews. I've got a whole cadre of them, and most of them read ebooks. I don't see that many teens when I go into bookstores, and I do go occasionally just to see if maybe Barnes & Noble decided to stock, our local store decided to stock Timebound. Generally they won't. But it mystifies me that Amazon isn't having as much luck in the YA sales. But I do think that's the case. Like I said, there hasn't been, some of the YA titles have not had a lot of crossover, and that really seems to be and to take it to one of Amazon's other programs, I think Kindle Unlimited won't face this, but the Amazon Prime lending library, that email as a parent comes to me. I am also a reader. If I see a book that I like,
Mhm.
I'm very inclined to click that book and take that download for myself, and then the kids will buy whatever books they want, because that's the one thing I don't make them check with mom before they get. They can get a book. And I think that's probably true in a lot of households, that lending library came to the parents, that they were the ones that got those books. And maybe that has something to do with it, because I mean, as self-published authors know, a lot of your sales are coming from lending library, and now I think probably from Kindle Unlimited.
You know, you had mentioned. I'm trying to remember whether this was in your email or whether it was somewhere else. Like you originally had the book in Select, or you're pro on Select. Like in this on this show where we go back and forth. I kind of don't like it a lot anymore, just because I don't like to limit my options. But I think you were really pro on that, right?
I was pro Select, and the reason is I tried it to begin with. I tried Barnes and Noble, Kobo, Smashwords. I had it out everywhere, and I was finding the back on. And that might just be the nature of the readers that I was attracting. I don't know, but most of them were coming from Amazon, and I was losing money by not being in Select. Most of the people I knew who had e-readers, I mean, I knew a couple that had a Nook, one that had a Sony e-reader, but more and more people were moving over to iPads, and you can get the Kindle reader or any other reader on your iPad. So it didn't seem like it was necessarily shutting out a group of readers. The difference between 70% and 35% is pretty big, and it just, and also the Kindle Free Days, that was another big incentive for me. I did see additional traffic for the self-published book once I made it onto the top 100 Kindle Free. I think I celebrated that almost as much as I did the making it into the paid charts later, because I had to work so hard to get it. But it just seemed like a better marketing decision for me to go with KDP Select, that I was making more money. And I mean, I don't really have an option with Times Echo, which is the self-published novella, because since my book is with, since Timebound and Times Edge, the new book that's coming out, are with Skyscape, both of those are only on Kindle, and therefore it doesn't really make a lot of sense for me to go over to the Nook with the novella, when most of my readers aren't going to be over there anyway.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Have you so just I know you said this, but the main the 3-book series, which you have Timebound out, Times Edge is coming in October
Yes.
15th, around the time of yesterday's
21st, I think.
21st, okay. And then next year for the 3rd, and then you're self-publishing 2 novellas, basically between hiatuses between the books. So when you're doing self-published versus the traditional books, what do you do? Do you do different things with the back matter, like the list sign up I wanted? Do you do that sort of thing?
I will add that this time. I have not added it yet, but I think that's an excellent idea, and I actually think it's something that I'd like to encourage Skyscape to start doing, because it would only help in terms of, and I would really like to see them start a YA website similar to what some of the other young adult publishers do, but I think they've got a lot on their plate right now, and so it's probably going to be a while before that happens. In terms of doing things differently, I've kept the same editor that I have with the main books, because, I mean, having read Timebound, there are different timelines going on. Times Edge is still worse by the time we get to the final book in terms of complexity of the timelines. So I need somebody who already knows what's going on in order to keep things straight. I wouldn't want somebody coming in new to the series and trying to be my developmental editor. But it's worked out actually quite well. Skyscape simply was not interested in doing novellas. They had not had a lot of success other than offering up like, a chapter for pre-orders kind of thing. And these are 150 page novellas, and I just couldn't see that. I wanted to be able to do a little more with them than what they wanted, and they wouldn't have wanted to do the audiobooks either, which I've done. So they said that I could self-publish if I wanted to, which is more flexibility than I think I would have gotten with some of the big 5 publishers. So all in all, I'm a very happy camper with my publisher.
That's excuse me. That's all really cool. Can I ask a specific question just about writing time travel? Because that's such a fetish of mine. I love time travel stuff. Like it's so awesome, and I just don't think I'm a good enough writer yet to tackle it, because I think that there's so many places you can go wrong, and I have not read Timebound yet, but I absolutely will. It's been highly recommended by Johnny, and it's totally in my wheelhouse. I love that kind of stuff. But what are the unique challenges of writing time travel? Because it seems like so many places you could just go wrong and let the reader down, and I'm so terrified of doing that. And I know you could be. I mean, that's just it's hard, and Johnny and I, the thing we're writing right now is very layered, and it doesn't even have time travel, but it has some of the same elements that I would be afraid of breaking.
And it is difficult, and I think what I have had to accept is that I probably cannot please every time travel reader. Somebody that is obsessed with the scientific logic of it is probably going to lose patience, especially as the series goes on. I do talk a little bit about the science of it, and it is grounded in a scientific explanation, so it's not fantasy per se. But the problem that you face is you have a wide array of readers that like time travel. Some are really hard science fiction readers. Some are Doctor Who fans, which you have David Tennant talking about this wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey ball stuff. And when you get complicated with time travel, it has to become a wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey ball of stuff, because there's no other way to handle it. Especially if you have multiple timelines going on with like the alternate, it's not really alternate dimensions, but I'm taking the track of multiple universes. So it's just, one step over into the next little universe. It's complicated. And I have my main character, Kate. She talks about time travel giving her headaches. And that is the author's voice at that point, because there are times that I have to step away and just, okay, what did I do in the first book? Is this logical? Does this fit? Does it matter if it doesn't fit? And I keep flow charts, and sometimes I just have to take a break from it.
I'm sorry, I just want to add something from the perspective that Rysa wouldn't know, but that I know that Sean and our audience will, is she did kind of bake in a little bit of a unicorn, right? Like that's our joke on our show is if you give yourself a release valve. I know this isn't a spoiler or anything, but like, could you describe like the amulets that she has that
okay, it's a, they call it a Chronos key. It is a medallion. I don't know if any of you have read and I'm blanking on the name now, and that is terrible because it's David Gerald's The Man Who Folded Himself.
Yes, I love The Man Who Folded Himself.
I had not actually read that book, but I had someone tell me that this mechanism is a little like the time belt. So I got curious then, and I was surprised I hadn't read it because I am a major Trekkie, and although I prefer the Trekker term, so David Gerald wrote the Tribbles episodes, and I figured I would have come across it, and then I found out that I probably would have had it slapped out of my hands because there's some rather interesting sexual situations in that book. So don't recommend it to young adult readers, but the time belt and my idea of slightly different universes is very similar to what he has in The Man Who Folded Himself. And it's a mechanism that she can use because she has the genetic background. All four of her, that's a teeny tiny spoiler for book 2. All four of her grandparents, not for book 2, really more for Time Bound. All four of her grandparents are time travelers, or were in the future. There was a sabotage which left them in the past, and so she can use the equipment. They, however, can't use the equipment because they were tied back to the headquarters that was destroyed in the sabotage. So their signature's linked back there, hers isn't. So she can kind of bounce around like a ping pong ball, whereas they were on a one-way trip there, one-way trip back, which was supposed to be the safety mechanism, basically, to keep them from going around and changing history at will.
So I have a question for you, but just first, real quick, Johnny, the end of Caveman Time Cop. Okay. All right, that's the man who folded himself. That
I just
scene.
I just bought it while you guys were talking. I just bought it on there.
All right. Well, that's when I was like, how do we do this scene? That's the scene I wanted. That it's from the man who folded himself. And so Rysa,
it's a fun book. Like I said, I don't recommend it for young adult readers because of some of the content, but it's an interesting take on time travel and the complications that it can cause.
I don't
not
love
necessarily on a major scale, but on a personal individual scale.
Yes. Yes. And I don't love it, but there are a couple things about it that I just love. Like there's a couple things about it I just think are done so well.
I just wish he wouldn't have updated it, because he went through and he updated it for the dates, but he left in a scene where he tells his alternate self to pick out a cassette tape. And it's like, no! You just pulled me entirely out of the story. I mean...
So for Time Bound, where is it on the scale between like Back to the Future and Primer? You know, do you know Primer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like that's, I would say, pure escapist fun and just like, wow, I need a drink.
Somewhere in time.
Yeah, I would say it's somewhere in the middle, mostly because I do deal with a lot of history. I am a reforming history professor, also political science, so there's a little bit of that in there. And one of my original reasons for wanting to write the series was that I would get students coming into my classes who were totally bored with history. They were adults at this point, but somebody along the way, I couldn't help but feel they really let them down.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's because some of the stuff in history that's fun is really more interesting for adults, but I'm like, no, there are serial killers. There are cool things that are going on. The stuff
Did you ever watch the show Voyagers, by chance?
Excuse me?
Did you ever watch the show Voyagers?
Voyagers, no, but I've heard of it. I did not watch it.
They had something called an Omni, and it allowed them to go through time. This is way before Quantum Leap, but and it only had one season because the guy accidentally shot himself on set, and so they never had season 2. But I loved this show. He was playing a pirate, and he had a gun. He accidentally killed himself. He thought it was full of blanks.
Oh.
But they would just go through time, and they had to correct things that were wrong. But it wasn't within just what Dave?
We're digressing, but I think it was full of blanks. But the actual when you fire a gun, whether there's blanks or bullets in it,
yeah,
the compression is what shattered the skull.
I remember hearing that. Yeah.
Oh, Dave, did you watch Voyagers?
Yes.
Is it the bossest show ever?
Yeah, well, you completely interrupted Rysa, though.
Yeah. So yeah.
So you were making history interesting. Go back to that before Sean.
That was my goal, was to make it so that they didn't come in automatically yawning before I ever got to start telling them some of my cool anecdotes. And so it was initially aimed actually at younger readers, and then I realized that, I liked the first Harry Potter book, but I liked the later ones a whole lot more because she could actually say something meaningful. And so I pitched it for more the age that she was looking at by the time she got to the 6th and the 7th books. And so in the sense that there's real history in there, and I really don't want to veer too far away from our actual history. I mean, I don't want dinosaurs stomping in, 1905 Boston or something. In that sense, it's not pure escapist fun. It has a little more solid grounding than Doctor Who, which I do enjoy, especially the David Tennant era and going back further, Tom Baker. But
Yes.
it can get a little crazy sometimes. Like they did have a dinosaur in one of actually the last episode I watched in Victorian London. So I don't really want to take it that far, even though that can be kind of fun. But I also don't want to get over to the other level where I'm so worried about the mechanics of the time travel that I can't tell the story, because when it all comes back, it's the story I'm wanting to tell. There's a story in my head and I want to get it out. It's not that I'm wanting to convey what I think might be a plausible method of time travel. But
I like that you didn't talk down. Like I like that there was a lot of history to it, because this is another recurring trope here, is that Sean's got his start when an agent told him that his vocabulary was too rich for kids. And so, I mean, the stuff that we've done that's for kids, and then we have one young adult book, I don't know, I guess we don't worry about that. So that's great to hear that
you
has been
can't
a
worry
positive.
about that. And if they actually go back and they look at some of the classics in children's and young adult literature, they did not talk down to kids. They used real words. And actually, a lot of their kid characters even used big words. I have smart kids in my house. They use words that, I don't know, maybe some of these people making those comments aren't very bright and they're around stupid kids, but
Well, no,
I don't
even
want to write for stupid kids. I'm
No,
sorry.
I could not agree more. I waited 13 weeks for a response from the agency, and then they said, we like this, Mr. Platt, but we're sorry, we feel that your vocabulary is too rich for children. And that changed my life.
They use the dictionary.
Right.
I mean,
No,
it's
but
not hard. If they're reading it on a Kindle, they just touch the word. It's crazy.
Here's the funny thing. At the time, I owned a preschool with my wife, and we had 3-year-olds who these were just typewritten pages. They had no pictures or anything, but I would read them to the children. They were 3 years old and they knew them by heart. They would repeat them back, and they were 3. They were 3 years old, and so I was just so incensed. Even our editor, right now our current editor has returned stuff, and I love our editor, but he's a couple of times he's returned stuff. And we'll have like a 12-year-old child, and he said, no 12-year-old child talks like this. And I'm like, well, my daughter does.
I've gotten that as well about Kate. I've gotten several people say that she, a 17-year-old girl wouldn't use this word. And I tell them, I do remember being a teenager. I would have used that word.
I would have used that word,
I have male teenagers in my house that are much younger than Kate. They use that word, so I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to call bullshit.
I think perhaps editors are so cynical and used to being so much the smartest people in the room, they just figure everybody else is a friggin' moron.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think that you want to, and even if language is slightly above their head, that's how you. As long as it's not so, it's not distracting from the story, but that's your job as a storyteller.
That's how they learn.
Right. Yeah, awesome.
All right, last question.
I learned language from reading books. I grew up in a very small town that had hopefully none of them are listening, a very bad school system for the most part. If I had not read, I would have been totally and completely at a loss when I got to college. But I spent all my time with books. When I got to college, I actually fit in. And there are a lot of kids out there that are that way, that learned what they know from what they read. And I didn't read a lot of nonfiction. I read fiction. A lot of
I'm exactly
fiction.
the same. I learned what I dropped out of high school, actually. And I learned most of what I learned because my parents had a flower shop, and right around the corner from the flower shop, there was a bookstore. And they were really cool to me, and they let me read whatever I wanted to. So, I just read thousands of books, and it was all fiction, or Blanche Knott's Truly Tasteless Jokes, which was also awesome. and
learn something even from stuff that you might not want to admit.
And comics, they had the comic rack, so I would devour those. And that's, I think I got smart by just reading stories. And I wasn't, if I didn't know a word, I could figure it out by context. And we can't assume that people are dumb. Like, they can't figure things out.
My alpha reader for Time Bound was my then 8-year-old son, because he was 8 when I was in the main part of writing it. And
Awesome.
were there some things he didn't get? Yeah, I'm pretty sure there were. As a matter of fact, there are a few things I kind of hope he didn't get. But he got most of it. He got the story. He actually gave me some good feedback on things that I might want to clarify. And so when I've had people, and I have had a few people who've said that, it's probably pitched a little too high for my 12-year-old, and I'm thinking it's probably not. You might want to let them expand their knowledge a little bit.
We got a couple of comments, just real quick. Missy Morgan says, "LOL at Johnny buying that book now. So did I. I also bought Rises. I love time travel. Thank you for introducing me to a new author, guys. She is cool." Mark Cooper said, "Just bought the audiobook of Time Bound. This is going to be awesome."
Okay,
wow,
so
got some new readers.
Last question: When you're done with this series through Amazon, do you? I know that the answer might be, well, we'll see when I get there. Do you think you would go a traditional publishing route again? Would you seek that, or do you think you'd self-publish?
And are they coming to you right now after you won that award?
Well, I have a lot of foreign publishers coming to me. We've got the German edition coming out in I guess a week before Time's Edge hits, so that's the German edition of Time Bound, and then I think there's one in Chinese and like 4 others that are somewhere in the works. And I'd like to stay with Skyscape. I've really had a good experience with them. I think they know a lot about marketing, and while my books are not on the shelves at the indie bookstores, which I kind of hate, and at Barnes & Noble, which I hate a little less, they're front and center at Amazon. These people know how to market, and I mean they have incentive to market Amazon publishing books. I mean that might not be exactly right to say, but it is true. I mean they're making a decent.
No, one would certainly hope
so,
that would be the case if you worked with Amazon.
Excuse me.
Sean's making a veiled reference in our experience with 47 North.
Oh, okay. I have not dealt with 47 North. It's possible that I might try to in the future, because I'm not positive whether I'm going to go young adult or new adult with one of the series that I'm looking at, because I've got 2 other ideas, one of which is already partially written. But if I don't end up going with Skyscape, rather than going with some of the legacy publishers, I'd self-publish.
There you go. That's what we want to hear.
I know enough now that I think I could market it, and I think that once you have a name built up, there is some temptation to do that. So Amazon is helping me to build up the name, and if I stick with them, that's good. But unless they drastically change the royalty structure at some of the other publishing houses, I told people on several occasions that after I won the Amazon award, if Simon & Schuster or one of those publishing houses had come to me and offered me a contract for the other books in the series, I wouldn't have taken it. I mean, I wouldn't even have been tempted, because what they offer isn't as good, and I don't think that they know about marketing in this current reality. Things are changing, and they're not changing with it.
Well said.
So your website, and by the way, is it Rysa or Rysa?
Rysa.
Rysa, okay.
RYSA.com. Yes. And that's actually, it is a pen name, and it was chosen in part because we had a company called Rysa Development, named after the pleasure planet in the Star Trek universe, back in the 1990s. And when I was hunting around for pen names, I thought, okay, that is a woman's name too. It means laughter. At least the root means laughter.
Oh, you're delightful.
And I have a 4-letter URL. How do you get that these days? I don't think you do.
I was impressed. I was impressed. If you listen back to the beginning of this show, you'll hear the story of my pen name, which is, I'm sure, scintillating. So, are you active on any other places? Should people get in touch on Twitter?
Risa Walker, and I am also on Facebook, and that's both at Time Bound, which is the book page, and then
Oh my God.
Basically, my author page is a personal page. I'd rather friend people than have people follow me.
Dude,
So
I know Rysa from Star Trek. I just realized that. I just assumed it had been spelled differently. Like, I've seen those episodes.
it is.
Like, I'm a
They
total
spell
dork
it
too.
Risa, and I would be Risa Walker if not for the fact that was already taken whenever we started our company.
Oh, that's fantastic. I remember when Riker went there. Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
When they got the game. Yeah, that whole thing.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so thanks so much for joining us. This has been fantastic. Rysa's site is rysa.com. I'm just going to play the outro here. So, of course, I don't have it in front of me, so I'll wing it. Thanks for listening to the Self-Publishing Podcast. If you'd like to get all our best advice without the off-topic bullshit, you can get our guide, Write, Publish, Repeat, at selfpublishingpodcast.com/WPR. And if you'd like to see a novel written from scratch in 30 days with nothing held back, Sean and I did that at fictionunboxed.com. So I guess that's it. I can't remember the rest. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks.
Hold on one second.